What's going on, citizens of the Dark Knight Nation, and welcome back to the channel. This week we'll be breaking down, discussing, and analyzing DC Future State's Dark Detective issue number 2 by Mariko Tamaki with art by Dan Mora and colors by Jordi Belair. Now, if you haven't checked it out already, please, as a primer, make sure you go check out my review to the first issue here. It will definitely get you prepared to give you an idea of where I'm coming from on this one, but spoilers, it was a pleasant surprise. It's one of the few DC Future State books that I haven't actively wanted to tear my hair out while reading. So there's that. There's a little bit to live up to with this one. But before we get into it, I want to ask you guys, if you end up enjoying this video, to please hit the like button down below. Subscribe to the channel for more content. We are literally an inch away from 600 subscribers, which is a very, very modest milestone, but I'd love to get there sooner rather than later. And of course, comment down below letting me know what you thought of the review, what you thought of Dark Detective, why you picked it up, why you didn't, so on and so forth. And if you do all that, you'll also be entered into the giveaway for a copy of my comic book. Yes, my comic book. Area 51, The Helix Project. It is a sci-fi noir tale taking place in 1970s UFO hysteric America. With the Cold War looming overhead, the United States government is getting desperate. The story deals with these very personal, forward themes like mental health, identity, and the idea of living in service to a memory of somebody. But it also has some really fun uses of the sci-fi noir genres, like a really cool twist on the super soldier trope. So I hope you'll consider giving it a look, and if you do want to grab a copy for yourself, you can use the link in the description below to DarkKnightNation.com/shop, where you can find other goodies and such. But if you do anything, please consider picking up a copy of my comic, letting me know what you think of it. And if you're a little bit on the fence about it, well, like, comment, subscribe, and you'll be entered in to win a copy for yourself, as long as this video hits a mere 20 likes in the first 48 hours. But with all that out of the way, let's get into this book. We open up this issue in the Gotham Port Authority shipyard as Batman stalks down a band of delinquents looking to loot the place of its valuables. Or so we thought. The Magistrate's automated enforcers known as Cybers crash into the warehouse. This is where we learn the Dark Knight's true intentions, to go on the offense against Gotham's heavy-handed regime. After easily dispatching one of them, a massive hand reaches out of the maw of smoke and debris, and we cut back to Bruce's first encounter with the Peacekeeper, number 1. 2 years ago, just after taking a bullet to the abdomen, with Peacekeeper 1 on his trail, our desperate hero surprises his assailant with a blunt end of his grapnel gun at point-blank range. He then makes a break for it. Bruce's mind wanders, searching for the answer to why Gotham's foremost law enforcer would ambush Gotham's former prince in an alley. After being grazed by another bullet, Bruce makes a desperate dive into the Gotham River, barely avoiding a frenzy of lead raining down upon him. By a stroke of dumb luck, one of Gotham's many deceased John Does happened to be floating in the river nearby, and thinking quickly, Bruce kicks it up to the surface, baiting the Peacekeeper's momentary confusion. In the nick of time, a delayed explosion blasts the dock, courtesy of a timed electric grenade attached to the seemingly innocuous and frantically thrown batarang from just seconds ago. Some undetermined time later, Bruce fishes himself up onto the docks to come to his final rest on looking the city. But of course, Batman is immortal, and our hero finds the will to live on. We then cut back to the present. Having made quick work of the cyber, Batman hides the mechanical cadavers and makes his way to the current, rather humble abode. The last place in Gotham that still favors a key over bioscans. We meet his new roommate, Noah Reilly, who, luckily for Bruce, is a total proponent of conspiracy theories and privacy. Bruce makes his way down into his windowless bunker that he pays for in cash and without question. It's here that he gets back to answering a few of his own, starting with the suppliers of the Magistrate's cutting-edge tech. Just before he can dive deep, though, he's interrupted by a hollering outside, where he finds his roommate's daughter trying to stop a stranger from taking photos of the house. This is where we get an interesting little nugget in the form of Noah's daughter making a threat out of who she works for, and it does what she needs it to do. Now, whether this was her puffing her chest and implying something that was nothing more of a bluff of, or perhaps she works for the Magistrate. Who knows? Hopefully we'll find that out later on in the series. After this encounter, we cut briefly forward in time to a fully suited Batman trailing the CEO of Plexitech. You see, Carl Bennington comes from wealth, but was tanking the family's business pretty much up until the last couple of years, where he's now the head of a mega corporation that builds the ballistics and armor for the Magistrate. The Dark Detective follows him to a large compound in which he begins to sleuth around. A buzzing begins to crescendo in his ear and prompts him to activate his infrared sensors. He spots down a nearby microdrone that sends the compound security into a total frenzy. Reacting quickly, Batman snags the little bugger just before he's set upon by a swarm of killer drones. In a rush of adrenaline, Bruce races down the city streets, eventually deserting his bike and escaping the clutches of his enemy. Back at the bunker, Bruce dissects the micro-surveillance drone, concluding that the tech is actually based off of a prototype developed by himself and Lucius Fox years prior. It's exactly how the magistrate was able to uncover his secret identity. They simply left him nowhere to hide. While I don't necessarily think that this issue hit the mark that the prior set, I still thought it was a resoundingly solid installment in this story. Where I actually think Tamaki improves upon is hitting the ground running with plot. And even though I enjoyed the last issue more, it was a lot more sort of setting the stage thematically, contextually, and emotionally really for what's to come. And now we're hitting the stuff to come. Where I'll say she does do at least as good as the last issue is the delivery of expository information, even though she's balancing that now with a lot more plot. I thought that it came off well. She's setting up Bruce emotionally, mentally, and really doing a good job feeding us the information that we need to know in order to understand her plans for Gotham and, again, for Bruce moving forward. Now, because of that extra plot, I get the sense that there was a little bit more of that thematic resonance that was sacrificed in this issue that I enjoyed so much from the last one. And while it's not necessarily bad, I did very much feel it missing. She does maintain this overarching theme, sort of criticizing the wealthy and having Bruce come to understand the damages that he might have unintentionally done by putting certain things out into the world using his resources, his wealth, and even his intellect. So we'll see how that goes and how she's going to be able to pursue that in the next issue and wrap it up in the one after that. There's also a commentary on the preservation of wealth and property over people, which I could certainly sympathize with and thought it was played off well. Another sort of storytelling strategy that she carries over in this one is the use of non-linear narrative as a means to keep the reader guessing, and it also does a good job at maintaining a breakneck pace so that she controls the response time, right? So while we're reading this book, she knows when to cut forward or to cut back, when to jar us, right, for a dynamic moment, like when we have that immediate cut back to Bruce's chase with Peacekeeper 1, or when we're able to sort of pare down the drama as we pick up with Bruce after having dismantled the cybers. It was well done, and with that non-linear cutting narrative, some writers might tend to get a little bit disorganized with the way that they're exposing the story. And like I said earlier, she was really able to keep a consistency there with that. Now, I wasn't too keen on the corpse conveniently floating along in the exact area and having a vague resemblance to Bruce. It again felt a little bit too convenient. I mean, it's not going to degrade my opinion of this book a heck of a lot, but it was something that felt like a pinprick the moment I come across that scene. So, I did wish that there was a little bit more of an organic way to maybe spare Bruce some time in that scene. And one thing I've noticed now that we see that Bruce and the Peacekeeper are traveling far beyond just the alley where Bruce was shot, especially in a way post-contemporary Gotham when technology is undoubtedly even more prevalent than it is now. Did nobody speak out or record the Peacekeeper hunting down the former face of Gotham City? I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I feel like you would see that now in the modern age, nevertheless, post-contemporary. And that internal monologue that she's able to use plays a lot of very functional roles that I think she plays off well, whether it's expository information or setting Bruce's emotional climate. But at times it could come off as a little bit too conversational for my taste when it comes to Bruce's voice. But it's not the end of the world. Mora's art, of course, continues to shine in every way possible.
Wow!
His character acting is unmatched, and what he's able to do with that and gestural work in order to provide sort of a set of emotion, set the stage for drama, tension, or even pull back in a little bit more dramatically reluctant scenes, I should say, and that character acting is paired well with his wildly fluid kinetics. It's very much a testament to how instinctively he knows how to lay down the shot. It works really well in a multitude of areas. He's certainly not a one-trick pony, right? That fluidity in the character acting works well in those sort of pared down scenes, like with Bruce by himself in the bunker, or encountering his roommate, or when Bruce is having a drag it out brawl with Peacekeeper 1. You know, it's so reactionary and cinematic, and with the establishment of laying down the shot, he's really well able to lay out the page, just like in the last one, to keep the sequential narrative feeling more cinematic than it is two-dimensional, and I really enjoy that. There's such an intensity to these fast-paced scenes, but also, again, to those really small, introspective, and lonely moments where he's able to engage camera perspective, light sourcing, and again, the establishment of sequential narrative along with character acting. He just blends everything so well together in order to establish this narrative effect. And I do very much want to compliment Jordie Bellaire's colors, just like I did in the last one. They continue to shine. Whether it's just acing this cyberpunk-esque neon aesthetic of this futuristic Gotham with the CMYK palette, and if you want to know what I mean by that, go and check out our review of the first issue of Dark Detective. I actually even mention it in the first issue of the next Batman as well, if you want to know what I mean by CMYK, but they're basically using those colors that are the base that printers use to blend other colors, so that when they go to print, they look super, super vibrant. But they also create a really great sense of contrast here. And on that, she also really knows when to pull back for those more modern, intimate scenes and settings to really assist what Mora is accomplishing through, again, camera, light sourcing, gestural work, layout, all of that. In summary, we get a sense of Bruce's sort of emotional and psychological state here without being weighed down by expository information. Now, while that it's not perfect the way she's carrying out the aforementioned expository information through monologuing, I feel like at times it can really hit well when she does hit the mark. So it very much makes up for it in many ways. I think that this issue would probably be a solid 8 out of 10, and that's pretty high marks for me, although I did enjoy the last issue a little bit more because I'm a big sort of theme and emotional guy, and I loved the sort of narrative idea of eulogizing Gotham and Bruce as a part of Gotham. This one still worked out super well, and I do very much look forward to the next issue of this series, and if Tamaki keeps it up, I will very much look forward to picking up Detective Comics after Future State is over. If you enjoyed my analysis of Dark Detective issue 2, please make sure to hit the like button down below and subscribe to the channel for more content like this, and of course, comment down below letting me know what you thought of the review, or maybe Dark Detective as a whole. If you didn't pick it up, why is that the case, you know? And if you do that, you'll be entered in to win a free digital copy of my comic book, Area 51, The Helix Project, and that's all courtesy of AJ's Comics in Colchester, Connecticut. You can hit them up using a link in the description below, and if you do decide to sign up for their comics pull list, you get 10% off everything in the store. You can manage that all online if you'd like to, and they'll mail your stuff to you. All orders $100 or more are absolutely free shipping, even if you're on a military base overseas. So with all that being said, I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll catch you in the next video from Dark Knight Nation.